Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tribe of Nerds. Shane and I are back for another Survivor What If interview, this time with two-time player, This Is His Island, Troyzan Robertson from Survivor One World and Game Changers. Troyzan, welcome to the Tribe of Nerds.
Hey guys, I like that. Tribe of Nerds. I've never been in the nerd category, but I'll take it.
Well, now you are, at least for this hour.
Yes.
There's a lot of Survivor nerds out there. I know that.
Yeah. Well, how's it going, Troyzan? You haven't been on our screens since what, 2017?
I know. I was on with two other guys. I forget who that one guy had. The one kid had the longer hair. Who was that? I forget what I did. I wasn't with you guys, was I?
No.
I was with somebody. Yeah, I had to go back. I mean, I do like a lot of different podcasts. Like I don't know who's who. I was up early this morning. I tell you guys, I lost power last night. So I'm thinking, thank God I got a computer, because I thought, oh, okay, here we go. I live literally on a 10-acre jungle south of Miami, and sometimes the lightning and thunderstorms get crazy, and then when the power goes out, it's like out for a day or two. So, we're here.
Yeah.
I put on my merge buff just for my. This is the first merge buff I've ever worn.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
My original One World buff. I think it's a good one. I like the design on it too.
Yeah, the design is cool. And also, Troyzan, you were my first ever winner pick, because Redemption Island, South Pacific, I started, but One World, I kind of I got into picking winners, and you were my first winner pick. So,
well, I missed it by That's the girls ganged up because they're like, this guy, he's gonna win. I mean, honestly, and all the jury was gonna root for me, and they're all. I mean, stuff that you didn't see, like at Ponderosa, all the guys were like, bro, you would have won, like you would have, like hands down, like you were gonna win. And the girls knew kind of that too. It's like that was my mistake, actually, because when you first play, you really don't know what people are thinking. You don't know who's really a game player, who's been recruited, who's good, who's not. You really don't trust anybody. I made the mistake of telling people how big of a fan I was, and I watched the show all the time, and I did this, and they go, this guy, he knows way too much. He's way too good. And I should have just shut up, at night when you sit around and talk about stuff around the campfire. I just open up about everything. It took me 11 years to get on the show, and I sent in 22 tapes, and I know this and I know that. And they're like, oh, this guy, he's going to be dangerous if he stays.
Yeah, because I feel like on One World, there were a lot of people that were recruited and clearly didn't know the game at all. So then if they hear oh, this guy's a huge fan and he's been trying forever, he actually knows stuff and we don't, he's a threat.
Over half. I mean, almost all the girls' tribe was recruited or somewhat so it wasn't not like saying I'm discrediting Kim because she played a great game, but it was very easy for her to manipulate girls when they're like, Kim, what do we do? I heard that daily. What do we do? What are we going to? She's just basically telling them, and they're just doing everything that she says. They're not really playing their own game. So, I mean, yeah, Sabrina was recruited because they were looking for a different Sabrina online. And they happened to see her name pop up. So they're like, oh, who's this girl? Kat was recruited. Alicia was recruited. Kim's whole fraud. And then on my side, it was a lot of, it was a weird. One World was supposed to be originally where they wanted us on the same piece of sand. We're right next to each other. We could look over and see the girls' camp. That's what they wanted. In the very first hour, the guys no, let's move down the beach. So we moved 100 yards down the beach. So we were somewhat separated. And that's when the whole thing went kind of oh, this isn't working the way the producer's oh, this isn't what we want. We want everyone together and fighting and doing this. So, it kind of screwed up right off the bat.
Well, let's get into the what if scenarios. So we kind of told you what we wanted to talk with you about beforehand. But for One World, so we get to the merge and the women take Jonas out. And then Michael is the next to go after they put the bug in your ear that Michael is gunning for you. I mean, what actually happened, and what if, you had, gotten the guys to actually vote together after the women took out Jonas? What would have happened in that scenario?
With One World, the guys were actually never really together. The girls' tribe was always together. They were all going to vote the same. Guys, in general, their egos are just way too big. And they're I'm not going to follow you. I want to lead. So it's we never really got together. And so especially after the merge, it was who's doing what. I'm like, I'm not sure if these guys are who knows what's going on. And it's kind of like with Michael, though, it wasn't really, Michael was never going to be with the guys. When we switched and we came back together as one tribe, he was talking with Kat a lot. He was talking with Sabrina and Kim. And I'm like, that guy, he's with the girls. I don't know how he's going to switch. Like, so for me, I'm like, okay, if I just basically said he's a girl, he's on the girls' tribe. And Michael was always like, in the beginning of the game, he was always like giving me crap. Like he was constantly like, oh, you're this, you're doing that. And I'm like, this guy, why is he being such a jerk? He's always getting pissed off. Like I remember I came out of the water once when I was fishing, and I said something like, hey, did you guys save me some rice? And he goes, oh, and when I walked by him under his breath, he goes, oh, yes, sir, your highness. I'm like,
oh, no.
Okay. He was just an asshole all the time. So I'm like, so all that stuff leading up to when he finally said, like, Kim said something like, hey, Michael's going after you. He had been going after me from day one. So it wasn't like some brand new, like all of a sudden Kim came up with like, she just got lucky that I didn't like him. She just, it wasn't like she convinced me. I didn't need to be convinced. He was after me from day one. So it was like, both my seasons, I was kind of like, people were after me like day one right off the bat. So I'm like, kind of had to always play from not the bottom, but somewhat, where it's like you're targeted right away. So Michael, I wasn't sure if I could ever convince him. So it's kind of when I got mad and said that he's got to go, that was it. I was like, I got to try something else. I got to try to get some girls on my side. I have to try to convince people, listen, there's five of us, 5 against whatever. They can't win. If you make a move and you guys really want to win, I went to Tarzan and Leaf and Alicia and Christina.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you people get together. Just use me now. Like, just figure it out. Like, but I don't think they really wanted to win. I think they just wanted to stay around. They just wanted to feel safe. And that's kind of like with Survivor. They just like, people don't think like, oh, I want to win. They just I want to feel safe. Who do I feel safe with? And they felt safe with Kim and Chelsea. They just were like, it's the hardest. People ask me, what's the hardest thing to do? It's trying to convince somebody to change their mind. It's just almost impossible. So I'm like, I tried to say, listen, if there's 5, it doesn't matter who wins over there. If this person wins, we vote this person out. And even their tribe are like, well, you can't vote us out. I said, yeah, we can. It doesn't matter who gets an idol. If we have 5, we beat 4. It's automatic. And I told those guys, you could get to 5, the final 5, and then you could kick me out. I mean, I was never gonna just accept being kicked out, but I was trying to play that card, like get to 5. You're automatically at 4. You got a chance to win $1 million. They would not listen. So it was kind of like, what am I gonna do? My what if was more like, when I lost my final challenge that, where you have to slide on oil and do the ring toss. I'm like, God, I was just like just a half a just peg away of winning. I thought like if I win this, they're really gonna get nervous, and I thought I would just win out. I'd be like who was it, Mike from season 30, where he just kind of won in a row, or like what was it, the season with Chris? He won, didn't he win a bunch of challenges in a row as well?
Chris Doherty, like he won 3 in a row or something like that.
And the producers were, back in the day, Matt Van Wagenen, who's the executive producer now, he was like just a regular producer, and we had our talks all the time. And he goes, listen, I'm really rooting for you, bro. I really am. I'm rooting for you behind the scenes. He goes, you have to win out. I go, I know. That's all I have. That's it. Like, so my mentality was like, I just have to win. But I really should have like probably gone to a few more girls like Christina and Alicia. Like I just didn't stick like, you guys are gonna get voted out next. I know you are. And exactly what happened. But I'm like, I should have stayed on that. But it's like, you're out there, you're tired and you're hungry. You're thinking like, oh God, these people are just like, can I get to their brains? I just like, so there, I mean, I have a lot of what ifs and the shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's probably like every other survivor that never won. Even the winners say, oh, I could have done this even better. I'm like, you won, who cares? Like,
right.
Yeah. But yeah, if you did try to get like Alicia and Christina, though, would it have worked? Because at least what we saw like in the edit, Christina kind of seemed like she knew she was on the bottom and just didn't care. And like just even at the final four, she's like, I know I'm getting voted out, and like didn't seem to try.
Didn't even try. And there was almost a chance like where they said like, we're gonna give you some votes. I'm like, okay, you're telling me that you're gonna get some votes, great, then I'm gonna vote for you too. Like,
yeah.
So Christina, I didn't realize at the time she was very kind of spacey, and like I was never like, hey, how many fingers am I holding up? You know, like she was just kind of, and I realized after the show she said she had ADHD. So she needed to have her medicine, so her attention was just all over the place or not even there. So my best chance was with Alicia, because if Alicia would have said, I'm with you, she had Tarzan in her pocket. So it would have been Tarzan, Alicia, Leaf, and then Christy and me. So it would have really, you know, if I could have, I should have stuck on Alicia, because I would be, let's see, there's no way you're beating Kim. I mean, everybody knew that too. It's like, from the merge on, they knew Kim was with Chelsea like that. They knew that 100%. And Sabrina was in, and Kat was really part of that four. So I'm like, you guys, and they saw it. I'm like, I don't know what you can't see. So like, you're looking at what I'm looking at, but I just didn't stick on it hard enough. I was more like, I'm going to drive them crazy looking for idols. I'm going to get it on. I'm going to win. I'm going to make them paranoid. You know, where I should have just been like, Alicia, listen. I should have told her and stroked her ego. You can win this game. You can, and just use me. You can win this entire thing. You're never beating Kim. And she knew that too. So it's kind of like, you know. But that's all. And that's all. When you come home and you watch the show, you're like you done this. And you think, well, how was I really thinking out there? Was my brain like really, you know? Because you're tired and you're hungry. Your brain's not functioning. It's like it normally does. You just don't think as quick, and you know, people don't realize, like, and I don't really know if they show it as much, like that how tired you are and hungry, that it really does affect, you know, how you do things, even how you walk, how, you know, when you wake up, like, just it affects a lot of things, you know, your just normal way of thinking, you know, or like you're okay, let's put two and two together. You're like, oh yeah, you watch the show later, like, why didn't I think of that? Well, you were tired and you were hungry, you're clueless, your brain wasn't functioning. So
but yeah, it seemed like you were the only one, at least that they showed, that realized Kim was a target or like a threat and wanted to actually get her out. Like nobody else was talking about voting Kim. You mention it and everyone's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So at least like it shows you had like game to you, and if you got to the end, you could argue your case over the people that were there.
I mean, I really was. I mean, that edit was true to form, because I was really the only one that was like, listen, you guys, I realized Kim and Chelsea, at least Kim, is leading that pack. Just the way that she spoke, the way that people followed her around, her demeanor, and she was, you know, I think, slacking off a little bit on challenges so that she could take it. And I'm like, she's winning this game. You guys, I don't understand how, like, there's no other person that's winning the game. And I'm like, how do you not see that? And it's like, I don't know. I figured that out early, because there was a point right before I think we were going to vote when Jay got voted out. We had, you know, I was supposedly in an alliance with her and Chelsea and Jay, like a final four. And she kept coming up to me, like, we made the decision, we're voting Alicia out. Well, in hindsight, she wasn't doing that. She wanted to vote me out, but she didn't tell me that. But she kept asking me during the day, like, so it's Alicia, right? I'm like, yeah, Alicia, that's good. We're good to go. And I look at Jay, yeah. And then she asked me like 2 or 3 more times, like down by the water. I'm like, why she keep asking me this question? If she was solid, she just asked me once, not 3 times, like something fishy. So I'm like, I'm going to ask her straight point. But I said, you're not trying to do something weird here, like a little snake move and vote me out, are you? And I could see in her eyes, they start shifting and moving. I'm like, God, she's voting me out. Like, what the shit? Like, I'm in her alliance now. She's voting me out. I turned Chelsea, her right-hand man. Like, Chelsea, I said, swear on your father's life that you're not voting me out tonight. Because she said, I reminded her of her father, and I was a trustworthy guy. I said, swear on his life right now. She goes, oh, I can't do that. I'm like, ding, ding. I think they're voting me out. Well, I had an idol. Yeah. So I'm thinking, like, I want to use it. I can use it to get Kim out. If just I wait to the final second before we go to tribal, you know, they always do a lockdown thing, you know, where you can't speak to anybody else. And it's kind of part of It's kind of the only rule that the producers ask you to do. Like if we go do lockdown, then no one speaks because no one had, and you get into a van or a boat, you can't strategize because they can't film it. So it's not fair if one person strategizes and one person can't, But in hindsight, that actually happened. It was kind of like a cheat move, Yeah. Kim told a bunch of people in the tents before Tribal that I had an idol, which was not. I mean, I found out this later. Jeff pulled me aside at Tribal after I got voted out. And was like, "Hey, I heard you're all pissed off and something happened." And he goes, "I heard." I'm like, "Yeah, well, one of the producers screamed at everybody the next morning, like, who the F, changed there. You guys were talking on lockdown. You do that again, I will duct tape your mouth and I will blindfold you, you mother effers." And that I'm like, whoa, who's pissed? Who did something? And like I found out, well, it was Kim.
Yeah, because I've heard that rumor that's why it switched to Jay last second.
Yeah, it switched. So. And if it wouldn't have got switched, everything would have switched. And Jeff would have never pulled me aside at Tribal. He does that with nobody. But like we were done with Tribal one night, and he goes, "Troyzan, come here." And everyone's looking at me. Why is he pulling him aside? He goes, "Listen, I heard something egregious happened, and that you're gonna just, say all this stuff at Final Tribal." And he goes, "But the audience doesn't know this. I mean, the viewing audience doesn't see the edit." And he goes, "I heard there was talking on lockdown and things got switched." He goes, "There's nothing I can do." I said, "What are you talking about? It's my whole game. Like, just make something up. Troyzan found an idol and he's back in the game. I don't know. What do you want to do?" Like he goes, "There's just nothing I can do. You're already out." But he said, "Listen, don't do anything where you look like, sour grapes. Like just don't like you're pissed and this because it'll be a bad look. Right now, you're pretty good. I think most Americans will like your game, this and that." And he's kind of like, wink, wink. He goes, "The people that we call back are, you think of the people that talk shit about our show and talk shit about me and CBS." I go, "Okay, I get it. Wink, wink. I'll scratch your back. You scratch mine. I better play again, God." And so it was one of those.
Yeah.
I talked before. If I didn't talk about it for a long time because I was like, I don't want to piss anybody off, but I'm like, I have to say something. It's like, I always obeyed the producer's rules. That's the only thing to me that was a rule. Like the only rule is like you can't physically hit somebody or whatever.
Right.
Now you can lie, you can cheat, you can do whatever you want. You can burn someone's clothes, you can steal rice, you can piss in the rice, you can do shit. But the producers are usually like, when we say lockdown, we mean lockdown, and they kind of want, because they have to kind of know what's going on, especially during the voting and they're like, if we don't know or something changes, they get pissed off. I mean, they get mad. Like it was like, they'll yell at us sometimes. Like with Mike, one time he was saying like he'd always complain like the producers like, "Okay, we're going to this challenge and this is what it is." He goes, "Oh, this is for the girls again. These challenges are always like favoring the girls and the girls this and these guys." And one producer goes, "Hey, Mike, shut the fuck up." Like. I mean, Jeff does that too sometimes at Tribal. He'll start cussing at us, He gets like a really shitty answer at Tribal, He'll look at you like, I think Christina said something like, "Well, Jeff, it is kind of like outwit, outplay, outlast. So I'm kind of doing it." He goes, "What the fuck kind of answer is that?" He goes, "Of course, what do you think we're playing?" He goes, "You better give me a better answer. That's bullshit." He goes, "You guys better come up with a better fucking answer than what you're doing." I'm like, oh. I was like, serious? It's like he just wants to have a good show. So he's like, but I didn't realize he would like hammer down and cuss. I hope I can cuss on this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
You beat me up, but it's, he gets fired up because Tribal lasts sometimes a couple of hours. They just switch reels and go into the next one, and you're like, "Oh yeah, well, okay, that Tribal was like an hour and a half, and then you saw about 5 minutes." So yeah. I get ones. I'm like, sorry, but I forgot the question even.
You're good. You answered it.
During the lockdown period, like, were there not producers watching, and like Kim could just talk and no one was there to?
There is, because we've got in my first season in Samoa, we didn't get into boats. We got into vans that are blacked out, so you never really know where you're going. You're on a road, but you don't know where you're going. Like you go from your camp to Tribal. Could take an hour and a half. You just know you're on windy roads because you're going like this. You're like, and there is a producer in the van. There's one in the front seat and one sitting in the back. So like, he can see if someone's, but he can't. If someone's behind him and someone's like, taps a girl, is real, like you can mouth stuff. So like you can get away with talking.
Right.
If they hear it, they get pissed. They're like, hey, they threatened in the beginning, like at Ponderosa, like we'll kick you out of the game. Like you'll go home, Once you're playing, you're kind of like, well, they can't really kick me out because it's going to look weird. Like how are they going to say where did that person go?
Mm-hmm.
And make you look like shit if they don't like you. So I'm obeying everything that they say. I want to be their friends. They're only humans, It's like if they can give me some kind of clue in their questions, because I listen real close. Like, are there questions? Are they questions? Or are they giving me like maybe a little idea of what's happening? So, but yeah, there's always producers around, and then there are producers in the tent. Just like we're in a big tent, we're just sitting there, right?
Yeah.
Someone's sitting at the front door, and then each person goes to the doctor and back and forth. So they could Troyzan go to the doctor and you come back. So there's kind of a person monitoring, but like it's not really like they're sitting like staring at you. So like if someone's next to me, I can go, and then well, he's got an idol. Like so, it's like that happened. So it's like it went from like I wanted all the votes to come to me because that's what would have happened. Kim would have said, we're voting for Troyzan. He doesn't have an idol. He's out. And those girls were all kind of, I just don't think they were intelligent enough to be like, we're going to split these votes and they're just going to vote. And I'm like, okay, if they vote for me, one vote could get her out.
Right.
I told Jay at the last second, I used lockdown to my advantage. I sat and like, okay, I know lockdown's coming. I'm not telling anybody. I'm going to write like a minute before lockdown. I'm going to talk to Jay and I'm going to make sure that it's just that he knows. Well, Jay, like a kook ball goes into, I told him, and then like 30 seconds later, he went and told Kim, and that's when the whole thing switched. And like, but she still, even though she knew that it wasn't like, was she 100% sure? No. So to get herself to 100%, she told other people that she didn't have a chance to on lockdown. She told them in the tent, like, split your votes. And the only reason I knew that is because when Kat got voted out, she told me that. That's when I was like, what the F are you doing right now? I was pissed. I was like, you gotta be shitting me. Like, how's that happen? Like, that's when Jeff got word that I was pissed. And I was going to ream her at Final Tribal and basically go, you cheated, you did. And Jeff's like, you can't say anything. The audience doesn't know lockdown. They don't know the edit. We won't be able to say any of that. That's right. If you listen to my question to her, it's like, it's kind of a loaded question. Like it's in a sense asking her to tell me that you cheated. I don't care if the it'll get edited out. I just need to hear from you. If you say you cheated, I'll vote for you. Because then that's good. But if you don't and you give me a wrong answer, I'm not voting for you. That's why I never voted for her. People thought it was mad, like poor sport, and like Kim was better and this and that. I was like, no, I'm just like, listen, I played sports. I mean, in life, I'm like, I understand there's certain things, and I'm like, I just feel like if you're gonna cheat, that's not a full win. It's like saying like, there's a Super Bowl game. There's two teams, and somebody happens to go in the locker room and steal their playbook and read all the plays and know every play. And then they go out and win. I'm like, yeah, you won, but you kind of already, in a sense, did you cheat? You read their playbook. So kind of, you won, but I'm going to put a little asterisk by your name.
Yeah. Well, so you get through one world and you are anxious to come back. 3 years later, you get put on the second chance ballot. So kind of walk us through what it was like experiencing the second chance vote and all of that.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. Well, I had been asked actually 2 times before that as well. When we finished my first season in end of August or the beginning of September, they called me the end of September. Hey, Troyzan, you want to play again? I go, oh my God, what? They go, yeah, we got a season coming up. Like, I'm like, I just got back. They go, well, wouldn't be leaving until like for a few months. Yeah. So then that was the season with Fans versus Favorite with Cochran.
Yeah.
So I was up for that all the way up until my finale. And then it's kind of like last minute. I think Malcolm did really well. We're very similar in a way. Like he's a lot younger, but like because he won and they already had kind of crazy Philip picked, they're like, okay, Troyzan, we'll just wait for you. Then I was up for Blood versus Water. And I was like I was on that season. I was a week away. We had just sent our clothes in, me and my brother. I'm like, bro, once you send your clothes in, that's it to me. We're in. It's a week out. What's going to happen? They call us last minute. Hey, we just got another person from One World. It's going to be it won't be fair for you to have 4 people from One World, because they had picked Monica, Colton, and Kat.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, you'll get another chance. I go, oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. Like, Jesus, I wanted to play this guy. Like, I was just mad. Like, and they're like, well, you could be an alternate. And I'm like, to the casting director, I'm like, F that. I'm not an alternate. So I went through that. Then second chances came up. And I was kind of like, okay, let's do it. I'm not really sure. And I'm almost positive. It was partial vote, partial, producers, because the producers, CBS, SEG, Jeff Pro is not going to let America just choose, because it's not going to be the dynamic. They have to fit certain people in, and the dynamics, like it's this type of person, this type of, like one young buck, one old buck, new, African American, Asian, like they have to pick and make it diverse. So like they're not going to do that. So like I feel like they already kind of had it picked. So that audience thing was kind of like, I don't know, kind of like a BS thing. It's like for one, if you voted, you couldn't just vote for one person.
Right.
So that was screwed up right off the bat. Like you had to actually vote for 10 or your vote didn't count. And you had to register to vote. So it's like they just wanted people's emails so they could send them stuff, they could buy stuff. And I'm like, well, I was talking to Lynn Spillman. I said, this isn't really fair. Like I have like a lot of girls that, I'm a photographer and I shoot for Sports Illustrated. So I had like girls that had like, 6 million, like Chrissy Teigen, 6 million followers. She's like puts out one tweet, go vote for my buddy Troyzan. I mean, even if it's 1 million votes, I'm like, that's a million for me. But her people had to vote for somebody else. So it wasn't, I was just getting 1 million. It was like, every other guy that was on the ballot would get, in a sense, my votes, because that, you know what I mean? And so it's like, I'm like, how is that fair? Like I should get all my people that are voting for me should get my votes. Like if it's tied right now, if I have 500,000 votes and Andrew Savage has 500,000 and Chrissy Teigen says, go vote for my buddy, and she's got 1 million people that are vote for me, I should have 1,500,000 and he should have 100,000. He shouldn't have my votes.
Right.
It's like, I'm like, so Lynn's like, well, you're the only person that's figured. I said, well, that's bullshit. I said, I don't think I'm going to LA because Jeff said he wants drama in the audience. And, he's going to be like, well, Troyzan, sorry, America doesn't like you. I'm like, well, I said, I don't want that. I said, and I told her, I said, I'm not flying out. She goes, oh, God, you have to. I said, I don't want to go through that stuff. Like, I just don't. It's like, if Jeff wants drama, then guess what? I'll stand up in the middle of the thing. I said, your stupid thing is fucked up, blah, blah. And she goes, anyway, I took the high road. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to take the high road because who knows if I'll play again. I knew I wasn't on the season before I even got out in the audience. I could tell. I could kind of tell who's who. So I just kind of like smiled, just like, but he did say something like, doesn't mean his words were kind of like, you didn't make it. He goes, but doesn't mean you won't play. And I know that I've always had a good rapport with Jeff. Every time I'd come out, I'd smile at him, he'd smile at me, kind of give me a wink. I knew at some point I'd play. But when you're that close and you're seeing everybody jumping up on stage, getting ready to go on the winner's bus to the island, and we're going to on the loser's bus. I'm like, oh God, this is not. It didn't feel good because you're in front of America and they're all watching the finale, and you're just kind of like, you try to smile and be normal, but you could tell everybody that didn't get picked. They smiled, but that was like one of those where it's like, okay, I'll try to be like nice, but this is gonna suck. But if I had to play a season though, like when I got chosen for Game Changers, finally they called me the next year. They got like, hey, we got another season coming up, and don't worry, it's not a vote. And do you hate us? I go, no, I don't hate anybody. It's like I get bummed out for 2 weeks, and then I'm like, I'm right back in. Like I think I'll play, I'm sure. And then when I saw the cast, I'm like, well, geez, I'm going to be playing with some of the best ever, like Tony and Sandra and Sari, Ozzy. And I'm like, geez, Aubrey. I'm like, I'd rather play this season for sure. Although it didn't turn out the way it kind of gets a medium, like, Game Changers isn't like, it's my fave. It's kind of like people are like, well, it's Game Changers. Half that cast isn't Game Changers. I go, well, yeah, duh, we know that. We didn't. And I always tell people, like, I know it's called Game Changers, and half the cast really weren't game changers. To me, there's 4 or 5 people that are really game changers that are survivors. I mean, there's, Tony was a game changer, the Spice Jack and the way he played. Johnny Fairplay, the way Russell Hance. I mean, those people that did stuff that was just different. That's game changers. But and I tell people all the time, and I even said this on a podcast, I said, we didn't name the season.
Right.
We played. Anybody that gets called, it's like, listen, yeah, you want to play? Yeah, of course. I'm not going to say no. I'm like, but in hindsight, I'm like, they should have just called season 34, like, Survivor, the game has changed. And then gone from that, because we did stuff in that season where things did change. And that would have been better, because it's like, no one, even in our interviews, like, well, so you're on Game Changer, how'd you change the game? I'm kind of like, I got to come up with some kind of bullshit lie, like, well, I went against I basically yelled out, this is my island, I wasn't going to take any crap, and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's game changing, I guess. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it does make sense though. Like, if the name was different, because you're definitely someone that tried to change up the game. Like, you weren't just satisfied with going with the status quo, getting picked off. You tried to, like, go against the women. So that definitely fits you. But it's not, like you said, it's not like you innovated something like Tony did.
Yeah, that's what I kept telling him. Like, I mean, it's like, yeah, me against everybody kind of a thing. I wasn't going to give up or take no. Yeah, okay, I don't know if that's game changing, but it's kind of like, I'm even told him, like, listen, there was one episode in one world called Troyzan versus everyone. I'm like, oh, okay. I was watching like some commercial, like, next week, Troyzan versus everyone. I'm like, what? So, yeah, I mean, Game Changers, it was fun. It wasn't as fun as my first season, just because, your first season, you're excited. You don't really know anything. It's just like, oh my God, I'm Survivor. It took me 11 years to get on the show. I mean, I was constantly like getting close to getting on the show every year. I make a semifinals, and I made a final. I was a finalist for Guatemala. So I'll be as close. And then I finally made it. And like, it's just like, you're just wide eyed the whole time. You're just, and you probably hear this a lot. It's like, it really is one thing to watch it and one thing to play. Because when you're playing, you're like, this is weird. This is not like watching it at all. Like, it's not close. It's just like, especially day one, where people are just running around like chickens with their heads cut off. You're like, what in the hell's going on? Like, and there's cameras everywhere, and there's people, and no one knows what they're doing, and it's just chaotic. And I've even said it a few times. This is chaos. Like, who, and then I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, this is the game, but like, if you don't make an alliance, like right now, you're screwed. Like, this is the first thing you better do. That's the only thing in my brain. Like, you better get with a group quick, or you're gone. So I'm like, went to Jonas instantly. Like, he was on the trail walking. I said, bro, I don't know your name. I said, have you talked to anybody? I said, shake my hand right now. It's like, I am with you. I said, I'll talk to somebody. And you said, we get 4 people, like right now, like this is in the first hour. So that part, I was like, okay, I kind of figured it out. And then, as you go, you kind of get used to, like, what's going on. It's like in the show, you don't really see downtime, and the island is downtime big time. Like, it's a lot, like, there's just a lot of like downtime where, you think, you don't do a challenge for 3 days, and you sit around all night long, just telling stories, or even the lockdown stuff, and the confessionals that you do. It's like, you just, a lot of that stuff is just like extra time. Or like, or grabbing your torches and walking it like you're going to walk to tribal council. Then you turn around and you do it again, or it's like 3 times, one for the helicopter. Okay, here's the helicopter shot. Okay, now here's the low angle. And you're like, I'm tired as hell. Like, I don't feel like walking down the beach anymore. Like, this is bullshit. Sometimes we would protest. We're not doing any more walking. We're just going to tribal. So.
Yeah. Shane, you want to get into Game Changers?
Sure. So Game Changers, I feel like there's a lot that the edit didn't show about you. So happy to hear any behind the scenes information. But we wanted to also get into a scenario which I feel like Game Changers is known for, good or bad, is Final 6, where, we have everybody, including you. I think you're the one that started what you called the immunity train of pulling out these idols, and Suri goes home. But if that didn't happen and the vote went the way it was supposed to go, I think it was Sarah Lucina that was supposed to go home. So let's imagine like the idols and stuff don't come out, Sarah goes home, and you don't play your idol. So you're in Final Five, you lost an ally in Sarah, but you still have an idol. Like, how does the rest of the game go?
Yeah, everything's always in hindsight, because, you do make an alliance out there and you try to stick to it, because I did have an alliance with Brad and Sarah. So, and not knowing what the jury's thinking. This is like, in hindsight. So, I don't know that the jury is like really liking Sarah a lot, because in my mind, I'm like, they're flipping her off as they're coming in every time like, oh, they hate her. This is good for me. So, but I'm thinking, okay, if Sarah's not there and say Brad loses once and those two are gone, then it's a lot easier just to play on your own. You don't have to worry about it. I kept like thinking like I'm in an alliance. In a sense, you worry and you strategize for other people. Like, you want to, and that part to me is where I probably, in a sense, screwed up, where it's like, you really have to want to win. You have to be selfish. You have to be able to, I should have been able to be like, I'm voting out Brad, my best guy right here. And it doesn't matter, because the only way to win is to vote out your best friend, really, in a sense, and vote out my alliance, Sarah, as well. So it's like, yeah, then it would have been, Sari was never a threat in a sense. Like, she looks like a big threat, but like everyone's like, she's bad at challenges and that, and she really just kind of follows the vote. So, I don't think anybody would have allowed her to get to final tribal. So I feel like in the end, if it would have been like me, Ty, and Aubrey, I would have probably had a better chance in a sense, because Aubrey was really playing like a real low-key, like she wasn't a threat in Game Changers a lot, not really. She was known as a threat from her previous season, almost like known as a winner. So I'm like, okay, if I could, I'm trying to see who was final six. It was me,
Aubrey, Ty, Sari, Brad, and Sarah.
So yeah, I wouldn't want to go to final with Sari, just because I think sentimental value. They'd be like, okay, sentimental vote, she's going to get it, da da da. But I thought I had just a bit. I mean, this is all in hindsight when you think like the jury was thinking. They didn't know what the jury was thinking at all. And I probably had a better chance winning some challenges. Brad was a challenge beast. He was just hard to beat. So if he was gone, and Sarah's really athletic too. So I feel like I could have beat Aubrey and Ty and Sari at any challenge. So that might have been like, well, I could sweep this. Like, who knows what's going to happen? And if I could have, won 3 challenges in a row, but this is all like coulda, shoulda, woulda. I won a bunch of challenges, and I'm sure Ozzy would be like, I like the beast mode challenge guy. I'm going to vote for him. And I had other people, I never had anybody that disliked me. I mean, I didn't have a vote against me up until the final, like I think Aubrey. And so I'm like, I know everybody liked me, liked my game. In the show, you really don't see it. I'm kind of like purpled out, like just because, and I really kind of didn't get it, because I'm like, I'm doing a lot. I mean, I'm staying in the game. It's like I'm talking just as much as everybody else. I'm strategizing just as much, saying like, she's got to go, he's got to go. I mean, I know the edit says one thing, but it's almost like, if you're a winner, you're going to get a good edit. You're going to get an edit that favors you, in a sense where, like, say there's a group of us, like there's me and Sarah and Brad and Ty standing around, and Sarah says to me, who do you think should go home? I said, well, Andrea, she's got to go. She's got to go now, because she's this and she's that, and I've seen her play, blah, blah, blah. And then everyone agrees, yeah, that's good. So in a sense, I said kind of what I wanted to say. They agreed with me. If I would have won, they would have showed that. Instead, they showed Sarah saying like, oh yeah, Andrea's got to go. That's the only thing you hear. So you're like, well, that she must have said. Everyone agreed with it. Same with what Sari says. Sari says one thing. It's like, and you don't hear anybody else's opinion. Then it's like the audience thinks, well, then Sari, that's the smart. She knows what she's doing. It's smart. It's kind of like, at that Idlegeddon or whatever you want to call it, the idle train. It's like the edit shows Sarah and Sari. Oh no, wait, that wasn't it. It was before that, when Sarah supposedly gave Sari that.
Yeah, the steal a vote.
The steal a vote, right. And that wasn't really true. It's like, and they went back and forth at tribal. Jeff is like, so Sari, did you take it, or was it given to you? And then Sarah's like, well, I just gave it to her just to look at it. She can't take it. and they didn't know what was going on. And like, they was kept going back and forth. And it's kind of like, Sarah just goes, well, I don't know. I guess she's got it then. And I'm like, oh shit, she can't do that because she's going to still vote from Sarah, and Sarah will go, and she's in my alliance. And I remember in the beginning of the tribal, and they read off something like, well, here's the idol and what it means, and there's like rules to it. And it said something about it's non-transferable. And I remember hearing that, and after it's like a half an hour went by, Jeff didn't know what to do. I'm like, Jeff, hold on a second. I said, before you just let Sari, you do this, will you reread that? Because I heard something about non-transferable when we first tried tribal. And he goes, what? I said, yes. I even stood up. This is all edited out. And he goes, okay, reread that, Sari. So she read it. And this idol does this and blah, blah, or, this advantage, and it's non-transferable. And she goes, oh, see, it's not, Sari, it's non-transferable. It doesn't matter if she said you can have it or not. You can't steal it. It can't be transferred. And Sarah goes, see, yeah, so it's not transferable. That's what you hear at tribal from Sarah, because Sarah won. I'm the one who said it. I had zero credit for that, like zero. So I'm like, well, hell. So part of me is like, when I'm watching the show, like, I want more credit than that. I mean, people think I didn't do anything. I'm like, I just didn't sit around eating coconuts and get to the final three. You just can't do that. I mean, maybe some season where it looked like, did nothing, but every day, I mean, it wasn't like I followed votes. When people vote together, they vote together. It's 50-50, or sometimes it's even like 60-30. I might say something, but they make it look like somebody else said something. I mean, Game Changers was a season of all returners, really good players, and they had to show kind of everybody's game. Like, it's one of those, like, they had to show Tony's game, so everybody else got no edit. They had to show Sarah's game. They had to show Sandra's game. They had to show Malcolm's game. So like so in a normal season, if you're like a finalist or a final 4 or 6, you get a big edit. You get a favorable edit, because everybody else just gets pushed aside, and there's like, well, people won't remember them, no big deal. In the Game Changers, it's returners. They're going to show, like, if say Ozzy's going home that edit or that episode, they're going to show a lot of Ozzy, and anything that I did or Brad or anybody else just gets edited out. I mean, there's 8 games going on at the same time. And it's like whoever wins or looks good at the end, that's the edit that shown. So it's kind of like, and it's tough to let people know that, because they're only watching like, well, I watched what I watched. I didn't see much. They go, well, I know, but there is more going on. I'm like, the Survivor nerds know that.
Yeah. One of my biggest gripes with Game Changers is the edit, really, because they could have shown like what was actually going on. And I feel like, I mean, the biggest example is like the Michaela vote, that I don't think the audience had an idea of what was going on with that vote at all.
Yeah, I know. That's why, like, it felt like they tried too hard to show everybody's game, where it's like they should have just done it like a normal season, where if you're a top 6, if you make it to the top 6, you all get the best edits. Everybody else gets pushed aside. I know, but I know that part of them were thinking like, well, I want to make sure, we've got Tony on the season. We can't just edit him out. We've got to show, and we've got Malcolm, and we've got, JT. We've got to show these people. And in a normal season, so like the edit was kind of all over the place. You really didn't know what was actually, in a sense, going on. Even when I was watching, I'm like, well, that's not really kind of how it happened. It's like it was kind of all over the place, and I don't know. Like, I'm thinking they had a chance to be really good, but it's like, I mean, I'm happy with, I'm part of like stuff that's like will never be forgotten. Like with the Idol train, I'm like, you know what, this is going to be forever, and people will be mad about it. They want Sri to stay, but I'm like, what? And I purposely waited to be last to play mine, just to get a reaction from the jury, thinking like, well, if I get a good reaction, maybe that's a plus. I don't know. Like, you never know. It's like, and like I said, every time we'd come to tribal, even when it's like down to like finals, 7, final 6, 5, every time we'd come in, the jury was pissed off at Sarah, like mad. Like, you can see him like, and I'm like going, and they didn't like Brad at all, because Brad was kind of cocky and this. I'm like, this looks good for me. I'm like, I kept telling the producers, I was like, I know I'm playing from the bottom, and I've been playing from the bottom from the beginning. But I think I got a good chance. They really like me. The only thing, they didn't see my gameplay in the beginning of the game. The majority of the jury we're all Nuku. I didn't start with that tribe. So it's like, I only had like maybe 3 people that saw my entire game from the jury. So they didn't see, I had the biggest part to vote out Tony and Sierra Easton in the beginning, which to me was a huge deal. They didn't see it. So if they didn't see it, there's no credit. And they didn't see other things. They saw me like, well, you're following Brad. I said, well, Brad and I are doing the same thing. Same with Sarah. So it's like no one's following anybody, but it's just hard to convince people once they have their mind made up, you know?
Right. For sure. Shane, you have anything else for Troyzan?
Yeah, I think you kind of touched on it, but speaking of the edit, it was like they kind of showed Sarah have a heavy edit and kind of favorable, and then like you get to final tribal and the jury is like, we don't want to, like, we realize we have to vote for you, but we feel gross about it and don't want to. Like, they didn't show any of like what led up to that, I feel like. But I know there's rumors that I've read out there, like she like would trade wedding rings with people and be like, I have your wedding ring, so you can't vote me out.
That part's kind of true. Like we did a final 3, like Brad won a challenge, like a food challenge, and he took me and Sarah.
Yeah.
And so we kind of made this like pact, like, listen, you know, Ty could be dangerous. You never know. There's Aubrey and I don't know if Sari was still around. I'm thinking like, you know, I'll make a final 3 with these, not knowing that Brad was going to get votes, not knowing that the jury, what they were thinking about even Sarah. And I'm like, so we basically, you know, Sarah wore these like bracelets, right? She had one bracelet that was, you know, special. And she goes, listen, I'm going to give this to you, Troyzan. And I was like, okay, here's my bracelet. Brad's like, here's my wedding ring. He gave his wedding ring to Sarah. He goes, that's how much, you know, this is how we trust each other. Mm-hmm. Whether or not that was going to be true, you know, we didn't know, but we did make that pact. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like, you know, but, you know, I think in hindsight, people are like, Sarah it's funny. She's way funnier around camp than people. And she's jokey and this and that. But there was a lot of like more liberal people on that cast in the jury. And they didn't realize that Sarah's like full blown, you know, Republican, just Trump. She's like wearing the Trump hat at whichever, you know, I'm not political. So I'm like, you want whatever you want to do. But she was wearing it Ponderosa and like, oh my God, I can't believe I voted for this person. I'm like, this, she's this and she's that. And I'm like, hey, I knew that. It's like, yeah, you guys don't like Brad because he's a millionaire 10 times over. It's like, give me the money. I kept thinking like, if I could have just, you know, but the thing was, it was this new format too. In the, you know, it was that first time where they didn't just have one person come up and say something. And,
right.
You know, I felt that would have been way better for me. It was almost like right off the bat, Zeke basically said point blank, I'm voting for you, Sarah. Ozzy said the same thing. And they kept talking back. I didn't get a question for 20 minutes. I'm like, well, how am I even supposed to let you people know how my game was if you're not going to give me even a chance? Like, I need a chance to say something. And I kept thinking like, you know, I should have just, I don't know. It's one of those where like you try to do it as best you can, you know, knowing that half that jury basically said point blank, you know, it was kind of edited out. Like, you know, I know who I'm voting for. So it's kind of like, you know, by the time they asked me a question, it was like, well, I mean, what do you want me to say? It's like, you know, I should have, part of me was like, in hindsight, when I rewatched it, I should have basically just said, and I did do a really long speech at the end, which I felt pretty proud of. But I should have said, listen, 10 years from now or 20 years from now, I want you to look at these 2 people. Are you going to be proud of who you voted for? You know, you're saying like, you know, you don't like him and this and that. I said, well, you'll be proud of me. I'm a Survivor fan. I'm someone that people like, that you'll like. You'll always be like, well, he's a good guy. I'm glad he won. You know, like kind of like Ethan. You know, like he's a good guy. And it's like, I'll be the good guy. You know, that people can be like, well, he smiles and he's always with the fans. He loves being around the fans and da da da. Because I am. I'm still a fan myself. And I think I could have got to him like, but I never really got a question so I could answer like that. You know, my final speech was like, I don't know, it was probably a good 10 minutes long. They had to edit it down. But I mean, I kind of basically went, listen, I'm going to throw out this, like, you know, I'm just going to say what I want to say about my experience means to me. So I went to each individual person and told them the personal story, like what we had done and talked about, or talked about, you know, went to Ty. Hey, remember that time we caught that eel and your hand was all, you were getting bitten and all bloody and you're screaming and crying. And then you kissed me on the face and said, man, remember that guy? He goes, yeah. I said, I'll remember that forever. I went to Andrea. I said, every morning, you know, we were like, oh God, we're tired. What are we doing? We did this. Like what? Like W-E, whatever. Like whatever. And then I went to Siri, you know, like, listen, you borrow my flip-flops every morning and hey, Troy's in it, you know. And so I had told a personal story from each person. And at the end, I was like, you know, listen, I could have never, ever had this experience without each one of you. Like, I mean, I would, you know, like I even said, if you would have asked me, you know, 20 years ago, if I was going to play Survivor and play it twice and then play with like, you know, Tony and Sandra and Sari, and I pointed to Ozzy, and like I would it never happened. It's like, so I really want to just thank you, and that's basically what I said. Well, after the speech was done and tribal was over, they bring out the piece and stuff. Jeff pulled me aside. He goes, Troyzan, come here. He goes, listen. And at that point, he goes, I've done 34 final tribals. I've never ever heard a speech like that. It was the best speech I've ever heard, ever. He goes, I'm going to try to play as much as I can, but you know it's going to get edited. But it's like, I just want to congratulate you on that. And honestly, at that point, I knew I had one, but for Jeff to say that to me and pull me aside and coming from Jeff, I'm like, dude, that's like a win for me. Like, so no one knows that. No one knew that. But so for me, I'm like, okay, I feel good. I know I'm going to get 0 votes, but I hope we get somewhat of an edit. You don't know until it shows. But just the fact that Jeff said that to me, it was like, it meant the world. It really did.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So did you know, like, going into Final Tribal that it was going to be an uphill battle, or did you kind of realize it when you go 20 minutes?
You only know when people start talking, you know, because, you know, sometimes when you're going into, you know, the tribals before, like, you know, each person's getting voting out and people, you know, the jury's coming in, you get a sense. Some people smile at you, some people wink, some people frown at other people. So I'm like, well, they're all smiling at me and give me like the thumb, you know, and I'm like, I feel pretty good, you know. And even when you talk to the producers, they go, what do you think? I'm like, well, I just think that, you know, I played a low key game. I kind of played like a Sandra game in the sense, like, you know, I'm hoping that they see that. And you don't know but then when they start talking and then they start saying like, you know, I'm going to vote for you and I'm pulling for you. And this is why. I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't looking good. This, you know, you don't know you're going to get 0 votes, but after a while you're like thinking, okay, well, maybe I'll get 1. Ty and I were way closer on the show than they showed. And I thought maybe I would get something from Ty and maybe Haley, you know, because even like, you know, after you watch the show, you're like, well, geez, it would have been nice to just be like a 2-vote guy. Yeah. So the more I've watched, like, there's a lot of really good 0-vote finalists that could play again. Like, they could have that as a season, the 0-vote finalists, because there's a lot of us out there. Yeah. that could play again. Like, I think Spencer was a 0-vote finalist, and
Stephen Fishback.
Yeah, Fishback. There's a lot. So, I mean, you know what? Carolyn.
Yeah.
So. You know, there's been quite a few. I think was Nora. She was but
she was 0 vote. Yeah,
and there's been a few. So I keep telling people with the 0 votes, you never know.
Yeah, that'd be a fun season actually. Now that you bring that up, a really good cast.
Well, to me, it's like the 0-vote. You know how hard we would play to not get 0 votes. I mean, it would be extremely like, and you know, we're pretty good players. I mean, I tell people all the time, and I know. Some people are like, wow, you got 0 votes, you're a finalist, you weren't that great. But it takes a lot to get to the finals. I mean, it really does. You know, and I played in seasons where it's 39 days, you know. So it's like I played 30 days and then I played 30. Those extra 9 days, it's like it's an extra 2 months. It just seems like forever. And it takes a lot to get there. You can't just sit around and you can't just not do you're doing something all the time. It just doesn't get shown. You're a 0-vote finalist and you get a little bit lucky if you get the editors to, you know, give you a somewhat favorable, you know, edit. Yeah. So, but you know, after some years go by, you're like, oh, okay, I get it, whatever. And people, in a sense, fans like remember you kind of as a whole person. They don't remember they just like specific. They don't remember specific things. They like, do you remember you? Like, what kind of character were you? And, you know, most people are like, well, you're the guy who yelled, this is my island. I said, I'll take it. I'll take that. And people, and I have a name that no one else is going to ever have in Survivor. So,
right.
If I'm memorable by that, then that's good on me.
Oh yeah, I wanted to ask about that because you go into one world and you're like, okay, I'm Troyzan, here's my persona, and then you get there and there's this guy calling himself Tarzan. Like, what are the odds of that? I feel like the producers had to have set that up.
Well, the casting and the producers knew that before they did. My name was Troy. It's Troy Robertson. I was Troy when I went out there.
Yeah.
I was Troy when I was going through casting. But they give you a piece of paper and you fill out, the questionnaire, like who would you play, like three adjectives to describe you, blah blah. It's like, do you have any nicknames? I'm like, well, I kind of do, but kind of don't. Like a friend of mine who's a photographer, he always would joke around. He goes, you live on 10 acres and you got marmoset monkey, family of marmoset monkey. You like this wild, like Tarzan. I'm going to call you Troyzan. I go, what? Troyzan? Start calling me Troyzan as a joke. And it was like him. And then somebody else in my family heard that he called me that. And it's kind of like, so a nickname just gets started, like one or two people start saying it. But I never really had the name Troyzan. So but I wrote it down. Well, a few people call me Troyzan, thinking nothing of it. So they took that, I'm sure, like, okay, let's figure out how we can get this to be Troyzan versus Tarzan. So they cast me. The first episode, I was Troy, and they make it look like I was Troyzan because they cut to me something that said my name Troyzan. It wasn't until maybe day 3 or 4 we were going up to a challenge, and I had talked to Tarzan a lot, and I basically was like, bro, I said, I can't believe you want to be called Tarzan. I said, a friend of mine calls me Troyzan. Isn't that freaking weird? He goes, what? I go, yeah, I have marmoset monkeys. So I have lemurs, and I've worked with chimpanzees. Me too. And so we're like, what? So we were talking back and forth. And so when we got to this challenge, Jeff's like, normally he's like, okay, what's going on in camp? Hey, Cam, and he asked Tarzan, hey, so Tarzan, what's going on at the men's camp? He goes, well, Troyzan and I have been doing a lot. He goes, Troyzan, who's that? And he goes, Troy, are you Troyzan? I said, well, kind of, Jeff. Like, yeah. And so it's like this joke, like, and so, but once Jeff says the name Troyzan, it's stuck. So like, and they wanted it to stick. So every time he said something, he called me Troyzan. Little by little, more of the cast would call me Troyzan. The girls never really, they always called me Troy. Chelsea would call me Troy, which is fine. Like it sounded weird to me at first. So it was basically anything that was written was my name, and then under from that point on. But it looks like from the beginning of the show that was Troyzan, but I wasn't really Troyzan until like episode 2 or 3, maybe. Wow. Yeah. So and now I'm actually glad it is, because like there's not going to be another Troyzan. There might be a Troy, but so it's like And Kim thought it was funny. She's like, well, they want to call herself Tarzan, Troy, that's fine. And a bunch of goofy freaking frat boys or whatever. Like, okay, whatever. So what was strange too was when I got off the show and people recognized me when the show was airing, especially I'd go to New York, people like scream your name out of nowhere, recognizing in Target, Troyzan. I'm like, oh, it was weird to hear my name Troyzan, because I just hadn't been called that much, only on the show. So when people start yelling, like, it felt weird at first. Now it feels weird if someone calls me Troy. If we're talking about Survivor. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
For sure. Well, this has been great, Troyzan. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, it was fun. I always like doing podcasts. Like I said, I'm always a huge fan. So doing any podcasts, I always have a blast. And you guys seem like cool nerds.
Thank you. Well, with that, tune in next time for more Survivor What Ifs, and we'll see you all next time on the Tribe of Nerds.